I always get some version of this. Okay, I need to just do a little bit more research before I make any moves, before I make any conversations happen, before I decide to apply for a role. Or maybe it is that they are looking for more certifications or education, or looking at a job description and feeling very intimidated by it. So just counting themselves out completely from that job search right away. And I see this all the time with high achieving individuals, people who care so much about their career and where it's going, but get stuck in that paralysis analysis of doing more research and looking for more things to do rather than just taking the action. And I know that to us, that can sound really thoughtful and strategic and maybe responsible or careful or respectful. But what I've noticed is that people get stuck in this pattern, this hamster wheel of not doing anything because they are thinking that they need more information before they decide to take an action. And it could come from our really high achieving perfectionistic tendencies, right? We want to wait for the perfect time. We want to wait to feel 100% ready. We want to wait until we know the definitive outcome on the other side of whatever decision it is that we're going to make. But this is the exact thing that is keeping you feeling stuck. The thought that you really need to have all of the answers, the feeling that you have to have 100% certainty on whatever the outcome is that you're looking for, whether that is a new job, or maybe you're thinking about starting a business, or maybe you are making a career pivot, but you will never know what the outcome is until you make a move, until you learn something about that opportunity, until you have a conversation, until you invest in yourself and your own development. The things that are keeping you stuck are that rumination of continuing to think and analyze and research and be in your own head about what this could look like. And oftentimes what we do to ourselves is we catastrophize about what the outcome is going to be. So we talk ourselves into the fact in our brain that this is not going to work out, that this career move is going to be the worst thing ever, that this business is going to fail, whatever it is that we're working on. We can talk ourselves into the worst case scenario so easily. That's what our subconscious loves to do. It loves to tell us that the worst possible thing is going to happen. But I want you to know that these are all very normal ways to respond to making a change. When we are thinking about doing something new, when we are doing something new for the first time even, our bodies and our minds take us to this place of, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving, I haven't done this before, this is scary, it is unknown, and it essentially puts you into fight or flight mode and tells you to retreat back to safety. So nothing is, quote, like wrong with you if you are having those thoughts of, oh gosh, like I can't possibly do this, or this is not going to work out, or telling yourself those stories, because that is naturally wired in us to keep us safe. Unfortunately, though, that keeps you in your comfort zone, right? It keeps you in that place of the known. It keeps you in the place of the certainty, of predictability of your daily routine, of the things that you know are in your control. It keeps you in that space. And so what this means is that what's happening for most people is that you are looking for more information to be certain about the outcome that you are considering. But unfortunately, you're never going to know what that looks like on the other side. So if this resonates with you, drop a comment in the chat. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you've experienced when you've been thinking about making a big change, and want you to give you kind of a shift of what you can consider and a reframe of how you can approach new and exciting opportunities or things that you've been thinking about doing all of 2025, that now we're here in 2026, people are thinking about making change. And I want to offer you a reframe that you can coach yourself with as you're considering making a change this year. If you want crystal clear clarity on where you're going, I'm going to share with you, based on all of my experiences, both personally and professionally working with others, that getting clear on what you want doesn't come before you decide to do something. It doesn't come before you decide to work on that deep inner work of knowing what it is exactly that you want. It doesn't come before taking action and having a conversation about what you want. It doesn't come before thinking about and considering like actually opening a business. It doesn't come before that. It comes after you decide to take action. After you decide to do the thing. After you decide to raise your hand for that opportunity. After you decide to have a conversation with someone about what you really want. You need to take action for clarity to come. And why that is, because even when you make these decisions without 100% of the answers on the other side, you're creating data and feedback for yourself. You're creating a loop that tells you, okay, is this energizing? Is this conversation bringing me closer to my goals? Is this opportunity giving me skills and experiences that are going to grow me in this new direction of my career? You feel how it feels. You see what works. You see what doesn't work. And that's where clarity care comes from. And I know, being a pharmacist myself, I know our training brings us up to be very perfectionistic. And rightfully so. We have very important work that we do in patient care. And all of us who are in the healthcare profession, we know that that care is so important to be as perfect as we can in the systems that we have. And when we are thinking about these lower risk things in our life, like making a career change, about taking a chance on ourselves, really, we apply those same frameworks and then we get stuck. We don't take that risk. We don't take that action because we're so worried about the outcome and we are uncertain of if it's going to be perfect. So we're afraid to fail, essentially. And that's where that feeling of paralysis really comes from. But what I'd like you to try out this year, maybe even this week, if you do it this week, I want to hear from you, because this is where momentum really starts, is I want you to take a micro risk in the context of your own goals. I want you to try something very small, very simple, so that you decide to take action, you observe what happens, and then you adjust your plan. I want you to have that hard conversation. I want you to reach out to that person who has an opportunity. I want you to raise your hand for something at work that's maybe a stretch for you. I want you to think about looking into a small business administration resource so that you can open your own business this year. I want you to talk to that person that you look up to in your profession, that you want to model your career after. I want you to do the thing. Just decide to do it intentionally. Don't decide that it has to be perfect. Just reach out. And I see this all the time with folks I'm working with my clients. They're like, I want a script. I want to see exactly what this looks like. And happy to provide those, but we want it to be authentically you. I want it to be authentically you. The other thing I hear sometimes is that, folks want to stay in their role until they have 100% clarity on what's next, which I also understand. Like, you've invested years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, lots of time, energy, finances into your career. It is an important part of your life. And you don't want to make a decision that could jeopardize that. And I totally hear it and resonate with that. And I want you to know that you, again, will never have 100% clarity on what's next. In fact, I tell my students this story all the time, and I've experienced this 100% of my career. I could have never predicted the steps of my career if I tried. And I've heard this from individuals at all stages of their career. I remember going to a talk several years ago at a large conference I was at about career planning. And I remember listening to the folks who were at the end of their career towards retirement stages. And I'm like, okay, I need to know what the secret sauce is. I need to know how they got it all figured out. I need to soak all, in all the information that they're going to share, because it's certainly going to be the keys to how do I know what's next? How do I know what the next best step is? And every single one of the panelists said the same exact thing. Like, I could have never predicted my career if I tried. And so have comfort in knowing that your path is going to unfold in a really beautiful, awesome way. And you likely aren't going to be able to predict exactly what it's going to be. And so instead of waiting for months, years to go by where you're still in the same position and you're not making a change, this just leads to more exhaustion potentially, because you're mentally considering all of the possibilities and likely telling yourself that none of them might work out. So instead of doing that, what if we decided in the beginning of this new year that we're going to make a promise to ourselves that we're going to explore what feels different and better so that that clarity comes? What if you decide that you're just committing to yourself? That could be your one action from this morning. It could be, I'm committing to myself that I'm going to explore what might fit me better, what might light me up and energize me, what might bring my strengths to light, what might leverage my strengths in my career. And know that that decision alone of committing to yourself is not a forever decision. It is not locking you into one specific path. It is not, making a huge shift, even though it might feel like, and your body might feel it come up for you, that it is scary to make that big commitment to yourself, that I am going to invest in myself by putting time and energy towards this. Know that you're going to learn about yourself and what you want in the process. And that learning is so extremely powerful. So I want to leave you with a reflection for today. And I'm going to do this throughout our series. I'm going to bring you coaching questions that you can consider as you launch into your next week. And I want you to engage. So drop your answers in the comments, engage with each other. I'd love to see community built from these conversations. So if you want to help each other out, maybe you have a connection that you can really plug someone into, or maybe you can just connect that person to somebody else in your network. I'd love to know what is coming up for you this morning. So what decision maybe have you been putting off? What thing have you been thinking about doing all of 2025, maybe even 2024, 2023? What have you been waiting for because you want more clarity before taking action? What is that thing that you have been putting off, putting on the shelf, saying, okay, next week won't be as busy, I'm going to get to it then, or next month or next quarter, whatever it is? What have you been putting off because you've been waiting for that certainty to be on the other side? Or let me ask you it this way. If you didn't need the 100% certainty, what is the smallest thing that you can do, the smallest decision you can make that could allow you to move 1% forward? What's the smallest action you could take? Maybe you commit to yourself for 1 month. You can choose yourself in 2026. So I'll leave you with that. I am excited to see what you come up with. If you feel like this is a heavy topic, if you feel like this has brought up some things for you, if you feel like you are working on that thought of making a change, but you're feeling like, I don't know, this is heavy, I can't even think about that in the midst of all the other things that we have to do in our lives. This is exactly the kind of work that I do in my coaching. This is exactly the kind of support that I give to those that I work with. And if you want to talk about that, this is the invitation for you to reach out, send me a DM, tell me what's going on. I'd love to get into a conversation with you to see how we can move you forward in 2026 in a way that feels good, in a way that's not overwhelming, and in a way that actually gets you closer to what you really want in your work and in your life overall. So thanks for being here with me today. It's January 2nd. Welcome to 2026. I'm so excited to be here with you this year and looking forward to hearing from you. Have a great weekend and week ahead.